Hello, my name is Handan GULERYUZ. I am an assistant professor of economics in the Faculty of Economics at Marmara University. Today, I am going to talk about my paper, Prosperity, Gender Equality, and Economic Development in the MENA region. The general outline of the presentation will be the introduction, related literature, data analysis, empirical analysis, and finally concluding remarks. Now, in this paper, I examine the effect of macroeconomic, prosperity, and gender equality factors on economic development in 18 MENA countries. I use panel data analysis for the period 2009 and 2019, and that said, this duration covers both pre and post the Arab Spring period. Now, a wide spectrum of indicators is used to understand how different aspects of prosperity and gender equality can affect growth in the MENA region in this paper. Now, we know that MENA countries have experienced improvements in average prosperity in the last decade. On the other hand, paces of advancements in prosperity and growth in the region remained below rates in other regions of the world. MENA region is also identified as the world region having highest inequality both between countries and within countries. Furthermore, MENA countries have experienced macroeconomic instability, fiscal unsustainability, natural resource curse, governance incapability, political instability, regional conflicts, and gender inequality in both pre- and post-World War II periods. On the other hand, some of the positive changes in the MENA region have been the increase in school enrollment and completion rates, which is an essential factor to build a highly educated labor force, transition from a natural resource dependent economy to a knowledge-based economy. Also, there have been improvements in economic, business environments, particularly in market access, conditions for enterprises, and infrastructure, such as information technology infrastructure, network coverage, and internet usage. Some of the negative changes in the MENA region, on the contrary, have been safety and security issues and fiscal sustainability, which remain sensitive areas where improvements are needed. When we look at the related literature, which this paper is based upon, for instance, wrote in the 2012 work investigates the effects of social capital, quality of institutions, and economic freedom on subjective well-being. Farid and Lazarus, 2008, argue that social capital, freedom, and economic justice can have significant influences on subjective well-being, and that increases in subjective well-being have a positive impact on work productivity in developing countries. Tabellini 2010 emphasizes the favorable influence of social capital on economic development in the regions of Europe. Acemoğlu et al. 2000 and 2003 highlight causal effect of institutional factors on economic development differences across countries. Also in different studies such as Beblavi 1987, Bellin 1994, Levins 2012, and van der Poelck 2011, these studies analyze the impact of natural resource rents and rentier state on economic growth and development in MENA region and world have been analyzed in these studies. In another work, Pritchard et al. 2018 examined relationship between taxation, natural resource abundance, and democracy. Natural resource abundance, especially oil abundance, they find that it has a negative and destabilizing impact on democracy through channel of changes in government revenues. In another group of studies such as Ramsey 2011, Ross 2001 and 2015, St. Bacon 2006, Sue 2011 and Ulfelder 2007, they find out that there is a negative nexus between natural resource abundance, particularly oil abundance, economic development, democracy, and capability of governance, which is identified as political resource curse. In a study done for developing countries, Potravka and Ursprung 2012 find that advancements in social and economic globalization have a positive and statistically significant effect on social institutions, and these social institutions can support gender equality and diminish oppression on women. There are also studies such as Moghadam 2005, Karsenas and Moghadam 2001, Karsenas 1997, and Momani 2016, which well document essential participation of women into the labor market and market economy through different endeavors and its positive impact on economic development in the MENA countries. Now, we can start talking about data analysis, the third part in this presentation. In this paper, 4 indicators are used as dependent variables to measure economic development. These 4 indicators are GDP per capita growth rate, total factor productivity, growth of total factor productivity, which is measured as productive capacity, and the natural logarithm version of productive capacity. In In his article, Brian 2019 discusses using productive capacity as an alternative statistic to GDP per capita in order to assess economic development. Following his computation, productive capacity in this paper is calculated as GDP minus resource rents divided by working age population in that country. In this sense, productive capacity accounts for GDP, resource rents, and working age population trends. Since some MENA countries have relatively high dynamic working age populations such as Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and resource rents make up an important percent of national income in some region countries. So, productive capacity encompasses resource rents and working age population dynamics, and it can perform as a better indicator to count for economic development in MENA region. Moreover, I used 10 pillars from the 2019 Legatum Prosperity Index to measure effects of various trends of prosperity on economic development. Each pillar is a composite index which encompasses different aspects of well-being. So these pillars are health index, which includes mortality rates, health outcomes, disease and other risk factors, and quality of healthcare systems. Education index covers adult population skills, enrollment, education outcomes, and education quality in pre-primary, primary, secondary, and tertiary education stages. Social capital index includes social norms, civic participation, trust in institutions, and relative strength of personal and social relationships. Safety and security index covers short-run and long-run destabilizing effects of war, crime, conflict, and terror on security and safety of people. Personal freedom index includes individual liberties, social tolerance, and legal rights. Governance index encompasses government's corruption control, government efficiency, checks and balances, and limitations on executive power. I also equally weigh these safety and security, personal freedom, and governance pillars and generate a composite institutional quality indicator. The other pillars these are more related to the market economy and economic environment. Investment environment index includes degrees of easy access to and sufficient protection of investments. Enterprise conditions index calculates at what level regulations allow businesses to be founded, competitive, and successful. Market access and infrastructure index quantifies degrees of various distortions in the market economy and quality of infrastructure which supports an open economy. Economic Quality Index quantifies levels of workforce engagement and capacity of the economy to create a sustainable national wealth. Now, in order to prevent multicollinearity, I just use elements of fiscal sustainability, productivity, and competitiveness dynamism, and I leave out macroeconomic stability and labor force engagement. Then I also equally weigh these investment environment, enterprise conditions, market access and infrastructure, and economic quality indices and create a compound economic environment variable. I also control for the incidence of Arab Spring in 2011, female labor force participation, FDI, foreign direct investment, unemployment, resource rents, and percentage of women in the national parliament in the empirical analysis. Now, at this point, we can start talking about the empirical analysis estimation results. Briefly, I use a panel data fixed effects model with individual country level effects and also year effects, year fixed effects. So the models are estimated with year fixed effects. For the years where the occurrence of the Arab Spring in 2011 is not controlled for. Four dependent variables are controlled one by one. These four dependent variables are GDP per capita growth rate, total factor productivity growth, productive capacity, and the natural logarithm version of productive capacity. And all the models are estimated with robust standard errors. Now, coming to the main empirical analysis results and discussing them briefly, it is found that a rise in education level appears to positively affect all four dependent variables and positive effects on total factor productivity, productive capacity, and the natural logarithm productive capacity are also statistically significant. An increase in social capital level may cause an increase in productive capacity. Improvements in economic environment may cause increases in GDP per capita growth, productive capacity, and the natural logarithm version of productive capacity, and the influence on natural logarithm version of productive capacity is statistically significant at 5% degree. Now, Arab Spring in 2011 incidence is found to negatively impact economic development in many countries, and this negative impact on the productive capacity, the natural logarithm version, shows 1% statistical significance. Female labor force participation is found to positively and significantly affect all economic development dependent variables. A rise in foreign direct investment (FDI) may cause an increase in GDP per capita growth at 5% significance level, total factor productivity, and productive capacity. Resource rents are found to be positively correlated with GDP per capita growth and total factor productivity. Nonetheless, these correlations do not turn out to be statistically significant in the empirical analysis. Even though influence of % of women in the national parliament on economic development appears to be positive, it does not have a statistical significance. Now, impacts of the years 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014 on the natural logarithm version of productive capacity are found to be negatively and statistically significant at 5% and 1% levels. These are the years of and surrounding the Arab Spring event. Probably due to the economic, social, this impact comes from probably due to the economic, social volatility and uncertainty the Arab Spring causes. Now, as robustness checks, I break down the two composite indicators, economic environment and institutions, into their components and control for these components individually. Therefore, I examine relative effects of economic quality, enterprise conditions, investment environment, and market access and infrastructure, which are components of economic environment separately, and also governance, personal freedom, safety, security, which are components of institutions, the composite indicator of institutions separately. The other variables I control for remain the same as in the benchmark model. Now, in the robustness check estimations, improvements in economic quality are found to positively affect GDP per capita growth, total factor productivity, and productive capacity, yet the statistical significance remains weak. Developments in investment environment and market access infrastructure can have a positive and significant at 10% and 1% levels influence on the natural logarithm version of productive capacity. Moreover, improvements in safety and security may cause an increase in GDP per capita growth, productivity capacity, and also with statistical significance at 1% and 5% levels in natural logarithm version of productive capacity. Now, when natural, again, discussing the robustness check estimations, when natural resource rents increase, this may cause GDP per capita growth and total factor productivity to increase in models where the occurrence of Arab Spring in 2011 is controlled for, these positive relationships between natural resource rents and GDP per capita growth and total factor productivity turn out to be significant at 5% level. The length of the time period that is used, 2010 and 2019, may affect the nature and statistical significance of the estimation results. Nevertheless, the data for the prosperity indicators are available for this time period. Briefly, the last concluding remarks. The results show that in this paper, in the MENA region, policymakers and executives can plan and implement the kind of policies which will generate and support advancements and improvements in education, market economy, business environment for foreign investment, female labor force participation, gender equality, safety and security, and social capital to achieve higher levels of macroeconomic stability and economic development. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.